Did he have you back?
Okay, 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with roll call, please, Mary.
Mr. Cranes?
Here.
Mrs. Rail? Here. Mrs. Hett? Here. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Lee? Here. Mrs. Medina? Here. Mr. Bembo?
Here.
Thank you, Maureen. Our next student representatives report is we get to introduce Desiree Lou, our new student rep.
Okay, so since it's the beginning of the year, we don't have a lot to report, but we do have homecoming on October 7th, so that's coming up soon. And then we have fall sports, which like soccer, they're doing really good, and they're, I want to say 4-0 in their conference, and they just beat Spash on Thursday, so that was exciting. And then volleyball had a tournament on Saturday. I don't believe they won, but they did better than previous years. And then we have the construction going on at Lincoln, obviously, and the lunchrooms. We got like a whole new cafeteria, as you're all aware. And we have like 5 different like markets that we can choose from. So we have like a world market, and then we have like the grill, and we're getting a la carte, and we're getting like other stuff eventually. But otherwise, like the gym hallway is kind of a nuisance, but we're working around it. Because then we only have like one bathroom versus before they used to section that part off by the office so that nobody could enter over there. And now they have to leave it open because we can't use the other. But
How are kids liking the new configuration?
I think it was, well, the line's really long, but I think we're getting used to it because I don't think people are realizing like how to work it yet.
Okay.
So I think as we get better acquainted with the facility, that it'll be better off. But right now, it's more time consuming.
Okay. Good. Maybe somebody holler instructions over there or something.
Good job.
If you want pizza, come here. Right? Tacos here.
Well, hopefully that construction is buttoned up in the near future and things will
That would
get
probably help too.
Well, thank you for the report. Next, we'll move on to the minutes.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of August 14th, 2017, and the special Board of Education meeting closed session of August 14th, 2017.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of August 14th, 2017, and the special Board of Education meeting closed session minutes of August 14th, 2017. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Do we have any comments, Henry?
No one registered.
Okay, we can move on to committee reports. Larry, I guess you're doing business service tonight.
Yeah, we met on September 5th with Katie, myself, and John Crings there, and the administrators listed. There was public comment, a representative of the Heat Cross Insulators Union 127 addressed the committee concerning having a qualified contractor with proper training install installation of the LHS project. We have one consent agenda. Does anyone want that held out? Committee committee recommends, and I move that the agreements for students attending the virtual program from the Adams Friendship, Eau Claire, the CETA Stevens Point School District listed, plus one additional student from the Adams Friendship School District be recommended for approval. So I move.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve BS1. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And you'll see the updates and reports that we handled, utility snow removal and other gas and oil, etc. So if there are no other questions, I would move the Business Services Committee report be approved as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Business Services Committee meeting minutes of September 5th, 2017. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and is approved. Thank you, Larry. Next, we'll go on to Personnel Services. Sandy.
Okay, Personnel Services met September 5th. That began at 6 p.m. on the dot. Oh, no, 601, I'm sorry. And from that meeting, we have 10 consent agenda items, but I'm going to be holding out the first one, and we'll go right on to the second one. The committee recommends and I move to approve the 23 support staff appointments. Third, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 non-represented staff appointment. Fourth, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 2 professional staff resignations. 5, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 7 support staff resignations. 6, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 2 support staff retirements. 7, the committee recommends and I move to approve the request for voluntary reduction in FTE. 8, the committee recommends and I move to approve Board Policy 840, public gifts to the schools for second reading. We discussed this last month. 9, the committee recommends and I move to approve Board Policy 460, students awards and scholarships for first reading. And I believe we have okay. 10th, the committee recommends and I move to approve a reduction in the number of days substitute teachers need to work on Mondays and Fridays down from 20 to 15 in order to be eligible for the one-time year-end bonus payment of $15 per day, effective at the start of the 2017-18 school year. We found it was just very, very difficult for them to get 20 of them, because when you look at the calendar of the school year, there aren't that many Fridays and that many Mondays. Does anybody want anything held out?
Can I ask a question on 4? Were there
4.
PS4 with resignations, were the damages collected, or did
Yes, damages were collected.
Thank you.
And I'd like to have that one held up for a separate vote. So, we have 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve PS 2, 3, and 5 through 10. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
I'd just like a separate vote on PS4. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve PS4. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Okay, going back to PS1, we're only going to have 4 professional staff appointments. One that was going to be a counselor in high school. It was only going to be for 1 year. It was only going to be a part-time position, and this person decided to stay where she was. So with that, the committee recommends and I move to approve the appointments of Miriam Dorier, Christian Dallman, Brett Weinfurter, and Megan Onesti. Second.
Okay, we have motion second to approve the professional staff appointments of Miriam Dorler, Christina Dahlman, Brent Weinfurter, and Megan Onesti. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And then we did discuss Board Policy 851, advertising the schools for second reading, but we tabled that, and it's going to be discussed further on in this meeting tonight. So with that, I move that the minutes of the September 5th Personal Services Committee meeting be approved as read.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have motion second to approve the Personnel Services Committee meeting minutes as read from September 5th, 2017. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And they adjourned at 6:30.
Motion carried, and the minutes are approved. So thank you, Sandy. Move on to Educational Services. Ann.
Thanks, John. The Educational Services Committee also met on September 5th, and we called the meeting to order at 6:34. There was no public comment. We have 2 consent agenda items, one about the parent representative for the Council of Instructional Improvement, and another about the professional development contract with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Does anyone want either of those held up? Okay. The first one, the parent representative for CII, Kathy Stebbins-Hintz, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, explained that there were 8 parents that inquired about serving as a CII representative and 3 who completed applications to serve on the district's CII committee for a 3-year rotating term. It was recommended that Chrissy Walzak and Emily Steve be chosen. And the second one was about professional development, and Kathy explained that Math Expressions has been the primary resource for elementary math instruction since 2012. And when implemented, Harcourt provided a half-day professional development for teachers. But the Math CII subcommittee members feel more professional development and support is needed. HMH has created a system of professional development involving 2 full-day seminars and 3 days of instructional coaching. Because of the cost, the administration proposed providing the professional development program to teachers at Grove Elementary School, educator effectiveness coaches, math interventionists, and the district math coordinator. And these staff members would then offer the same support to other elementary buildings. And the cost of that is $13,850, and that will be paid for by a combination of Title II and district curriculum funds, to then be followed up by similar services provided in the other 7 elementary buildings by district instructional coaches, interventionists, and the math coordinator. The committee recommends, and I move adoption of those 2 consent agenda items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ES1 and ES2. Do we have roll call, please, move?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayon?
Yes.
Mr. Crane?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go on to our updates. Margie Dorhorst, who's the principal at Mead Elementary Charter School, Denise Martell, Yvonne Simmet, and Patty Rasmussen, governance committee members, updated the committee on the school's goals for 2017-18 and accomplishments for 2016 and 17. That's always an enjoyable report to hear. The second update was on Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and Kathy Stebbins-Hintz reviewed the ESSA funds and how dollars will be spent by the district in 2017-18. And we went on to professional development report, and Kathy again reviewed professional development highlights from the 2016-17 school year, as well as plans for the 2017-18 school year. And with that, the committee recommends and I move adoption of the rest of the minutes of the September 5th Education Services Committee.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Educational Services Committee meeting September 5th, 2017. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Thank you, Ann. Move on to agenda referrals and information requests. Do they have anything in this one? Okay. Move on to the legislative agenda. Now, what do you have for us?
Well, we got a couple interesting things. This is, as of today, the U.S. Senate Health and Human Services and Education Appropriations Subcommittee unanimously approved a bipartisan fiscal year 2018 funding bill for the federal departments of labor, health, and human services, and education and related agencies. The budget is $3 billion above the fiscal year 2017 level and $27.5 billion above President's budget request. The Senate subcommittee also rejected Trump's proposed cuts to teacher training and after-school funding. Again, breaks down the overall Senate bill includes $68.3 billion in discretionary funds for the U.S. Department of Education and programs it administers. That's an increase of $29 million over fiscal year 2017. Title I grants, $15.5 billion, a $25 million increase. Title II educator professional development, that's the one that could be in jeopardy because despite Senate support, they don't know how that's going to come out because Trump didn't want it. But that would be $2.1 billion, which is the same funding levels. Community learning centers are $1.2 billion, maintaining the same program for the student support, academic enrichment grants, a $50 million increase there. IDEA state grants, $12.8 billion, the same funding level. Career tech ed grants, $1.1 billion. Same level as last year. Trump had originally proposed a $165 million cut. Impact aid at $1.3 billion, $11.5 million increase. Teacher and incentive funds, $190 million, which is a $10 million decrease. Charter schools, $25 million increase, and then TRIO programs, $3 million increase. So that was as of today through the federal. In Wisconsin, it's, well, they're still debating. One of the things is they're trying, joint finance has pushed through special needs vouchers to expand to 250 in the 18-19 school year. That's what they're coming out of their committee meeting with. So that would be a $3 million reduction in aid to public schools. They're pushing to take over or put in takeover provisions for charter and schools. And it's basically aimed at the same school district, even though they don't name them specifically. And they're doing their best to take all the teeth out of the voucher program by increasing family income from which was now at 185% of federal poverty to 220% in 1819, which will allow approximately 550 more vouchers, reducing aid to public schools by 4.4 million. An example would be current family income of $44,950 for a family of 4 qualifies for the voucher program. Under the new provision, that limit would go up to $53,406 as an annual income. They're changing income verification and making it easier to switch between things. They're playing with the prior year attendance requirements, which were all keep in the program, and they are working with something about if you're not a registered voucher school, getting a way to make it easier to get in the program without actually registering. Other than that, there isn't much out there because it's so up in the area. They haven't still come up with a true budget. So until we see the true budget and come up with that recap sheet, we really don't have any information other than what the Joint Finance Committee is talking about now.
Okay, Jen, thank you for the report. We can move on to bills.
Okay, I would make a motion that the receipts be noted and the bills be paid as printed.
We have a motion and second that the receipts be noted and bills paid as printed. We have a roll call vote, please, ma'am.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hett? Yes. Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayom?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Krings?
Yes. Thank you, Maureen. Moving to new business now. The first item, possible action on employee appointments, resignations, retirement requests. Anything, Ryan?
Nothing new.
Okay. Item B, discussion and possible action to approve the implementation of a total base wage increase for the Ask Me Local 1075 custodial and maintenance bargaining unit.
I believe the board had an attachment or an item with the recommended increase included for tonight's meeting. Just a quick update, the negotiations board committee did meet with the Ask Me Local 1075 back in July. During the negotiation session, we did come to an agreement on a total base wage increase of 1.26%. Unfortunately, we were not able to come to an agreement on how to distribute that total base increase. The board committee did have a recommendation, which is the sheet that you have with you for the board meeting, outlining a differentiated distribution model. That chart does show at the bottom right-hand corner the total of 1.26%, but by the job classifications shown, there was a differentiation in what the total increase would be, so that the overall total came to the 1.26. The other group did come up with a couple of other ideas that we just were not able to come to an agreement on. The end of that session did result in both parties agreeing that we were at an impasse in the negotiation process. Again, just over how to distribute. The total increase we had an agreement on, but we did not get to an agreement on how to distribute. So both parties agreed that we were at an impasse, and the committee did indicate that the intention was to bring to the full board recommendation of implementing what the committee's recommendation was, and that's what you see on the sheet before you. So the committee's recommendation is to approve this increase for 17-18, which would be retroactive back to July 1.
And it was very commendable. I mean, they asked for an equal distribution. You know, the justification behind this is some of these positions really do need to be bumped up because they're going to be next to impossible to fill when they become open. So we need to be able to adjust, like the heating tech and the head maintenance person, the grounds people, to get them at a level that we can hire people in. And they were pretty adamant that they wanted a even distribution, and one of the people was getting more of a pay raise, and I don't think he wanted to be singled out. It was very commendable of him. So we just said that, no, we're in impasse and we'll implement it like this and move forward. So it was a good conversation. I mean, there was nothing there that was acrimonious. It just commended for his viewpoint on that.
Can I ask what the flat wage, or if it was distributed equally, what was the amount?
Well, the total amount to be distributed did not change based on the distribution model. If you look at the chart, it's the final column. It just indicates how the percent deviates from the 1.26%. So if you look at, for example, the head custodian at Lincoln and maintenance employees, you can see that they had this proposal is 28 cent per hour increase, which equates to 1.23%. I mean, maybe 2 cents less than what it would have been if it were an equal distribution.
What I was asking is what the even distribution would have been is about 29 cents or 30 cents.
Right.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion to approve the board proposal of the distribution of the 2017-18 wage increase for the custodial maintenance group.
I'll second.
The motion, yeah, that's going to be.
I had moved to approve the implementation of the 2017-18 total base wage increase of 1.26% for the AFSCME local 1075 custodial and maintenance bargaining unit retroactive to July 1, 2017, with the recommended distribution as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the implementation of the 2017-18 total base wage increase of 1.26% for the AFSCME local 1075 custodial and maintenance bargaining unit retroactive to July 1, 2017, with the recommended distribution as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move on to item C, possible action to rescind the board motion made on June 26, 2017 to exceed the revenue limit for 1 year on a non-recurring basis to fund energy efficiency and operational efficiency projects.
The board remembers back in June, we had a presentation from Nexus on the energy conservation project. And at that time, we needed to have it approved before the state approved their budget, because in the budget they're removing the energy exemption as it was at that point from the budget. We were known now then. Well, now we could have waited, but anyway, we approved two motions. One was for just a 1 year, just covering the energy projects dealing with the construction at Lincoln. And then another one was to approve energy projects in addition to that at Lincoln. Since then, we've approved the energy project throughout the building, which includes the projects with the construction. We can rescind this motion on just the 1 year for the energy proposal, just for the construction. Any questions?
I would move that we rescind the board motion made on June 26, 2017 to exceed the revenue limit for 1 year on a non-recurring basis to fund energy and operational efficiency projects.
We have motion and second to rescind board motion made on June 26, 2017 to exceed the revenue limit for 1 year on a non-recurring basis to fund energy efficiency and operational efficiency projects. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, rescinding of the resolution authorizing borrowing from state trust fund loan in the amount of $1,500,000 is similar to the previous motion we just passed. The easiest funding to get was the state trust fund loan at that point in time, and it was also the quickest. And the board approved the getting borrowing from the state trust fund loan, but during that process and after that, our financial consultant located a bank that was willing to lend us at a considerably lower rate. In fact, it would save the district about $750,000 in interest by going with the bank loan. And so we've closed on that loan. We closed on it last week. And the money is now invested and will be paid out as the projects are completed. And so we can rescind this motion also on the state trust fund.
Okay, I'd make a motion to rescind the board motion made on July 10, 2017, to approve a resolution authorizing a state trust fund loan from the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands in the amount of $11.5 million.
Second.
Being the motion is second to rescind board motion made on July 10, 2017, to approve a resolution authorizing the state trust fund loan from the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands in the amount of $11.5 million. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item E, possible action, temporary borrowing approval.
Because of the projects that last year, we borrowed $2.9 million, and it's been declining the last 4 years, the amount we borrow. That amount will increase this year. I don't believe it will reach $10 million, but in talking to our financial consultant, we may want to issue some long-term debt on just the middle school project in order to decrease the amount of short-term borrowing we do and put us in a better financial position with our fund balance. But in any way, we're going to have to do some short-term borrowing no matter what. And so the amount is yet to be determined, but they have the amount of $10 million in there. We would not exceed that amount.
And just for the posterity's sake, this is the standard short-term borrowing that we do all the time,
Correct.
and normally for cash flow purposes.
Correct.
To make payroll, pay bills, whatever the case is. Aids to come in, correct. Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in an amount of not to exceed $10 million, issuance of tax and revenue anticipation, promissory notes, and the participation in the PMA levy and anticipation notes program.
Let me make one more comment for a second. There's two pools. There's a September pool and an October pool. And I'm not sure exactly which pool we're going to be in, just so you're aware of that.
Still second.
Is one pool better than the other pool?
No, it's just the timing. It's just the timing and when they measure your cash.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve a resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in an amount not to exceed $10 million, issuance of tax and revenue, anticipation promissory notes, and participation in the PMA levy and anticipation notes program. We have a roll call, please, Mary.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Heck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Rayle?
Yes.
Mr. Crane?
Yes. And last item, consideration and discussion of board policy 851, advertising in schools.
So this was tabled from a committee meeting, and what I wanted to do so that we can bring it back forward for approval is just get some very brief input on the policy. One of the concerns that was raised is where the board comes in as far as approvals are concerned. And for clarity's sake, I don't want to assume anything, which is why we're talking about it. When we're looking at issuing, for example, a paver or some kind of recognition of a donation, $50, $100, $1,000, depending upon the project, would that be something the board wants a final say or approval of, or would administrative approval be okay with respect to those sorts of things?
I think administrative approval would be fine for that, but if we're renaming some field,
Correct.
such and such, or some building such and such, or, big corporate sponsors like that, I think that's a little different.
So when you get into that, and it's actually in the second page, well, it'd be the third because it's two-sided. So the third page of the policy, considerations for sponsorship naming rights, that's when it gets into the nitty-gritty. And so what I assumed, or what I anticipated, was including a caveat or an additional step in here indicating the name to be used, the amount of money that was donated, the location, the duration, these sorts of things would all go through an administrative approval process with the final vote being by the board. So that would be included in or around the approval process that you see about 2/3 of the way down the page. And then lastly, I bring your attention, it'll be very similar, I would argue, to what you see last, which is commemorative naming or renaming of district educational facilities. And that is very explicit where the board actually develops an ad hoc committee. So then I would refer you back to the second one we just talked about, which is sponsorship and naming rights. Do you feel it's necessary to establish an ad hoc committee, or do you think an approval process through administration who brings a recommendation forward is sufficient for that? The difference, the nuanced difference would be naming rights would be like Mead Elementary, and presumably it's going to be Mead Elementary for as long as that building stands there. When we're talking about sponsorship naming rights, that typically is going to have a duration, and the duration would, in most cases, we don't know yet, clearly because we haven't done it, but it'd be determined between a mutual agreement between the sponsor, the donor, and the school district, but for a finite period of time. 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 3 years, whatever the case is. So the nuanced difference there is we're not looking at naming a facility after someone or an organization or whatever. For the life of the building, it's more of a short duration. We could appoint a committee to do so and consider those sorts of things, or we could utilize the process of what's been laid out with administrative approval and then a final step of bringing it forward for ultimate final approval through the board.
I would think that would be acceptable. I mean, the one that comes to mind to me is like in Everest, they have the Green Next Center, but they named it because the Green Neck fan company gave all the money to it, so. But that was a new building and it was never named for it. Okay. But I'm not sure if they paid naming rights beyond that. But I would think, I would agree with saying that the board approval would be, I would think that we should have board approval after the sponsor and the naming rights. And I don't believe we need a committee for that.
Okay.
Now I just had a question on 851-2, advertising district facilities. If you look at the very first sentence, the Board of Education shall retain authority to accept or reject any and all proposed advertising, and then you go down to 3.
Yep.
They don't jive, I don't think.
Well, I think that the idea, Maureen and I have talked about that too, and I think the idea is ultimately if there's advertising that's going on in the facilities and it's not something that is in line with the board expectation, that can be communicated to the superintendent who then can take action to remove said advertising. But one of the things that we wanted to do was ensure that it's somewhat streamlined so that we're not bogged down, as I would say, $50, $100, $1,000. I think of the Mead project, the outdoor learning project versus the high school. If somebody wants a sign hung for a year that says this area is sponsored by so-and-so, I don't know that we want to get down to the nuance of having that approved, and I think that provides you that latitude.
I guess I was always thinking grand scale of Pepsi, Coca-Cola,
Right.
these big things. That's where
Right.
That's where our mind was last week.
And that's, I think, where you get into the second portion of the policy that indicate that sponsorship naming rights, which would be for, I would say, a significant duration, or then commemorative naming rights. But,
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. And recommendation comes to us. If we have questions, we can ask before approval.
no problem. Then the other piece, so we'll make those updates, but the other piece is it's new. So we're going to, if we don't like the way it's working, or we're finding that things need, bring it back and talk about it again. No problem.
Let's hope we have so much interest that it becomes something.
Yeah, good point. That wouldn't be bad.
No.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we need a motion for this?
We do not. I'll bring it back next month.
Okay. It looks like we have a seminar on Thursday of this week in Rothschild, which I believe some of the board members are going to. And then our next meeting, there's a CII meeting on the 25th, otherwise business service on October 2nd. With that, we're adjourned. Watch your games.